You know, where else could you see a airsoft M41A pulse rifle and then a real British L129A1 in the same video? In the video, we're going to talk about Chinese furniture in. Hi, Misha here, and this is just a bit of an impromptu story talking about storage for my stuff. In some past videos, you might have seen some wooden shelves that I pretty much just had built, custom built for my aircraft models. Well, needed more storage, so I've been cleaning around up here, so you'll probably see quite a bit of mess throughout this video, but you know, that's how cleaning goes. And wanting to get some more storage for the more or less recent NECA figures you've seen. After J-Ro and I went to do some business on the way back, I thought, let's run by Hobby Lobby, see what they got. Get some, bins and things that we can come up with. And I found some decent things. Found this little kind of 3-door Tupperware thing that is reasonably big. And it was, like a few bucks, not too bad. Also picked up more of these. I've used them for a long time, different, slight makes, but they're really great for storing small bits and bobs for all kinds of stuff with the little dividers. And kind of around the same price point. And then picked up something that I wasn't sure how useful it would be, a different divider thing. Unfortunately, it does seem to be a little limiting, but I think I will find the perfect use for it one day. In some ways, it's a little too small for some things and a little too big for others. Right now, I just have those astronauts we recently did a video on hiding out in here until they get their own spot made. But yeah, it's larger sections. But unfortunately, a lot of the stuff I tried to put in here was either just a little too small to, take up this spot. It was a lot of wasted space, or a little too big. So my thought of this might be a good way to store figures or even models didn't really pan out, but that's okay. That's the nice thing about storage. You can always find something for it later, trust me. But then we were looking, and I was like, they have anything bigger. I was kind of thinking of a display case. And they actually did have something kind of like this, but it was more of a toolbox size. It was still plastic, but, more drawers, about the size of your average toolbox. I thought, perfect. How much? $150. Nope. And J-Ro said, let's get out of here. And I said, sounds good. So we jetted. Picked up these because, like I said, they were $10-12 each. Got a couple of each just to see what worked. But yeah, that bigger one for cheap plastic, I'm not paying that. Even close. I mean, honestly, to me, it was a $50 thing. Maybe $60. If I pay much more than that, and he kind of agreed, I want something real. This cheap plastic stuff, it lasts for a number of years, but eventually it breaks. It's not very attractive looking. It's just useful. Sure. This included. But if I'm going to spend over that, if I'm going to spend real money, it's time to get a display shelf, a cabinet. And so I started kind of poking around over the weekend. Ended up with a decent amount of time because we had a lot of storms that weekend, and so I was just kind of stuck in and thought I'd see what was to be had. And I'm reluctant to get any kind of IKEA type furniture on Amazon because past experience, it's come in broken, like cracked boards, or it's come in missing pieces. Once we had A, B, C, D, we had like 2 Ds, an A, a B, and no C. So, the 4 boards, we had 3 types with one and 2 missing the other component. It was just a mess. Every time they made it right, but generally speaking, I've kind of bought that stuff when I needed to at various local stores. But you might have noticed in 2023, post-COVID, local stores are not as bountiful as they once were. Plus, outside of just like open bookcases, it's hard to find anything. And you might have noticed we have cats. So I poked around on Amazon and, of course, immediately got my way into the Chinese stuff because that's pretty much everything is now, unless you want to spend, $2,000 or $3,000 for hardwood made furniture, which would be awesome, but seems a bit ridiculous to spend that kind of money just to store plastic toys, figures, models, what have you. I kind of have this thing where whatever it's storing kind of has to be worth the cost. So that got me down into the Chinese stuff. And this is what I came up with, and this is how easy or difficult it was to go together. So this is, my new display case. There were several that were probably the same thing, just different brands. Kind of like the whole Polytech Norinco thing out of China. But this one I went with was Lissimo. Yeah, Lissimo. Lissimo. I think it'd be Lissimo. And I went with metal. So like kind of office metal. Although with plexiglass or maybe real glass. I offered to get like a garage style, just big black mass, but the wife ixnayed that one, so we went with this display case. And yeah, all in all, honestly, it turned out better than I thought. And I even got to customize it a little bit. Roughly speaking, this is about 72 inches tall. So, yeah, right at 6 foot. And yes, I am short. And width-wise, we're at about 32 inches, so just under 3 feet wide. And it's surprisingly deep for what it is. About 16 inches overall, giving usable shelf space of about 31 inches by about 14 and a half inches. And so, yeah, it's kind of meant to be an office deal, and it's still not completely arranged, but most of what I've got's done except for a couple of kind of shelves. So, how easy was it to put together? Frankly, more than I thought. It was pretty straightforward. Just, box it together and use metal screws to pin it together. Some of them, there was maybe 2 or 3 that were being difficult, but once I just got some good torque on it and punched through, they hung in. Now, I don't think it'd be something you'd want to disassemble and reassemble many times. But, for what it cost. And, of course, the metal's not thick or anything. Just kind of like, an office cabinet metal. But it is technically lockable. Which, plastic on here, I guess. Oh, come off. What's funny is I've used the lock, so there we go. Looks like there's a hole in it. And I was kind of concerned about how the doors went in, but as it turned out, pretty good. They were very easy to install. The doors actually came already pre-assembled with the lock pre-installed. And then they came with one of the 2 pins. And you just had to put in the other one and set it in, and then they came with metal magnets. Of course, the second door doesn't have a lock as such. It just gets locked because of the ledge in. And it came with self-leveling feet. And kind of on 2 skids. And I definitely was out here with a marble trying to get it relatively even. Now keep in mind, it is metal, so it's not perfectly straight itself, but actually I didn't have to do really any hammering. All the pieces really kind of came together just fine. So yeah, all in all, assembly was pretty straightforward. Use an FNPS90 box to prop this one open. It wants to ever so slightly swing in This one's good. It didn't do that before I loaded it up, but I think with the weight being all in, it's not a big deal. Again, I used a marble and kind of rolled it around to get it pretty even, and accounting for the metal shelves that aren't perfectly flat themselves, worked out fine. So the shelves go in really neat. Most shelves you see, peg in from the sides. These actually have the metal grommets in the front and back, which means your side to side is pretty much the whole length of your shelf. And you're not really losing much. I mean, efficiency-wise, because it is thin, but it is metal versus wood, you're not losing much. And each shelf does have a reinforcing bar running at the top, right up here. I don't know how much weight they can really hold, but I'm not putting anything heavy on them, especially the top ones. I do have a couple of heavy things I do plan on putting in the bottom. Alright, now I just have the tall figures. I got all the Cylon shelves set up, and then realized the Cylons were slightly too tall for the spacing I did. So instead of rearranging again, I just moved them down. So one thing that actually sold me on this, it only originally came with 4 shelves. So 4 positionable shelves, plus the bottom, plus you do have the top. And the top, you can put some light stuff on. I wouldn't put anything too heavy on it, but it does have a little bit of reinforcement too. For some reason, this strip up here had 2 screws that were the most difficult to get in, but we got them there. So anyway, it only came with 4 movable shelves, and you might count more than that here. And one thing that really sold me on it was you could get extra shelves, and that might not seem like much, but for some reason, bookcases, display cabinets, whatever, getting extra shelves is really difficult. And for some it may not matter, but when you do things like this, models, toys, what have you, you want more. Now, some need to be pretty tall, like up here and at the bottom, but in the middle, there's extra space. I don't know if I could squeeze another one in, though. I estimated maybe 2 extra, and I feel pretty good about that. I might be able to get another one, but to be honest, 6 shelves plus a bottom and a top for a total of 8. That's pretty good space efficiency, considering its footprint on the floor is not that big. Again, about 32 inches by about 16 inches, so less than 3 feet and less than 1.5 feet, and you really get most of this on the vertical. They had a few others that were 87 inches, but yeah, 72 seems to be about the tallest. They had several that were 64s and whatnot. They had a few more that were slightly wider, verging on 36, but as it turns out, the space I estimated for it was just right. I only had to move the table an inch to the left to fit it in, and so anything much more would not have gone. Probably could have got away with 34 inches tops. So, yeah. This is kind of what happened, and the funny thing is this cabinet was not much more than that big plastic toolbox thing at Hobby Lobby. Oh yeah, other fun fact, that plastic toolbox thing, it was rainbow colored, which if it had been cheaper, I would have bought just for a joke, but I don't make $150 jokes. Now this base cabinet, I think it was $180. And then the extra shelves were a couple of, a little bit extra too. But no, it came very quickly. Shipped actually from California. I'm sure it was originally shipped from China over there to the warehouse. But no, they actually had it in stock. And quite a heavy box. This thing, including the extra shelves, is about 105 pounds. So we're not talking super duper light, even though, again, it's pretty thin metal. For just keeping kids out, or pets out in my case, the metal will do fine. Plus, it should at least have a couple of moves in it. Interestingly, the 2 back pieces join together, so they're kind of split and I was worried how that would do, but they're joined pretty strongly, top, bottom, and then kind of riveted together fakely with screws in the back, so that they seem fine. Again, everything lined up pretty straight out of the box. None of the metal was overly bent. A few of the edges were a little curled, but it's the kind of metal you can move back. So yeah, all in all, pretty pleased, and it definitely lets me organize a few more things, which I'm a big fan of, getting things organized, believe it or not. So on the top, I haven't really done anything yet. I will probably use it to put some big aircraft, like a couple of B-52s. I actually have a C-5 Galaxy that might go there. Things that aren't that heavy, but need a lot of wing space. We'll see. And of course, the top shelf are the Predators. I put them up there because there's ever so slightly more room on that shelf, just based on how it goes. And I was very, very surprised they all fit on one shelf. I was really thinking it would take at least two, but spacing-wise, this actually works out really well. It's deep enough to get 3 rows in, and just wide enough. Everything fits perfectly for these NECA stands. Moving down, we kind of have the alien shelf, which isn't 100% done, but it's getting there pretty close. And here we have a bit of a catch-all shelf for at the moment, but the Space Marines and a couple of our other Arnie's are there. Again, kind of a catch-all. I might end up moving the Cylons up here. And then we start with the Eaglemoss shelves. These I made more shallow because they just don't need as much head height. I really wanted a nice place to put my Battlestar Galacticas because, frankly, they're some of my favorite parts of the collection, and I find them very unique. The problem is it's actually hard to find places to store them because they're relatively big. Some of them are a foot long. And again, happily, the shelves actually accommodate them quite well. I found a lot of the other shelving I've tried to put these on ends up having a lot of wasted space, and I kind of like finding ways to put things in where they're not like scratching up against each other, crammed, or bending. I don't like anything physically actually touching, but it's kind of like a game of Tetris. I like getting things in, maximizing space without overly crushing it. And then I left the bottom shelf because it'll hold the most weight too. I've got one big thing that I haven't put out yet. We'll leave it a surprise, but I will say it's a good 5-6 pounds. And so yeah, and got the monument down there from 2001. The other figures are up higher, but I'll probably move them down. The 2 taller Predators. Again, it's just kind of a catch-all shelf for taller things. So, yeah, that's how it went. And for an Amazon buy of Chinese things, it really is working pretty well. So that I would share again on the assembly if a blind guy can do it. And it was just me with my wife, quote unquote, reading the instructions. And I say it that way because it was the type of instructions where they were pictures, not really words. So best I could say is, okay, step 1, which parts do I need? Basically, if I could figure out which screws I needed to use and which pieces, and luckily they were numbered A, B, C, D. So if she just said, this needs A and N screws, then take it from there. And it does, of course, come with stuff you can mount it to the wall or floor with, but I don't really need that because, again, I'm not doing heavy things in it. But, yeah, that was the experience, and Felt like something worth sharing on the personal channel. If not, oh well, I bored you. But if so, yeah, that's my experience doing a Chinese cabinet. Yeah. For under 200 bucks, I'll take this over cheap plastic things that are a third this size from Hobby Lobby. And again, I really like that the company sells extra shelves. You wouldn't think that would be such a big deal, but it totally is. One thing, I actually ordered the shelves one at a time because I needed two, because I knew they were extra shelves. I wasn't 100% sure they would come with the grommets, the little hardware, the little clips to hold them on. Luckily, they did. And I have 2 or 3 extras that came with the base cabinet, so even if I lose one or two, and they're pretty good. They fit in well, but they are specialized for this. I'm not sure if I could find a replacement at Home Depot or Lowe's. But yeah, I like doing stuff like that. Again, sorry for the mess out here, just kind of rearranging, but we'll get there. But hope everyone enjoyed the Gary Newman music album tribute. I will do more, but have been a little busy. Plus, it's been really hot this week. Tomorrow's going to be 100. Tonight, it's not supposed to get much below like 75, 78, so hard to sleep right now, but it is supposed to cool off after the weekend. So, yeah. Appreciate you just kind of hanging out with me today. Hope everyone is doing well as we round out June. This is Misha. Catch you very soon. Next time.